Let's talk about the story we've been dealing with for the last several days or even weeks. Thomas Farr, North Carolina voter suppression consultant, folks. He also was a lawyer for Jesse Helms' campaign. They were the ones who sent postcards targeting African-American voters and suggested they were not eligible to vote. Well, here's the piece. He was supposed to be confirmed today, or there was supposed to be a vote today on his appointment, but the vote has been postponed until next week. Now, yesterday, there was a vote to end cloture, which pretty much said we're going to end debate. And, of course, it was 50-50. Vice President Mike Pence broke the tie. Jeff Flake of Arizona, first of all, he initially said that he would not vote for any judicial candidate until they took up a bill that protected Robert Mueller. But then today, he said he has been problematic in terms of his concern about Thomas Farr. Now, keep in mind, he sits on the Senate Judiciary Committee. Jeff Flake voted Thomas Farr's name out of committee. So I don't quite understand, if you were bothered by Thomas Farr, why in the hell did you vote for him in committee? Well, now he's saying he's an absolute no. And the one person who we said yesterday on the show could absolutely sink his nomination is South Carolina Senator Tim Scott, the only African-American Republican in the United States Senate. Well, after lots of pressure, phone calls and emails and social media, Scott says he is a no, which means that with those two votes, the votes are not there for Thomas Farr to get a seat on the bench. Now, I want to bring in our guest, Vanita Gupta, of course, President, CEO, Leadership Conference for Civil and Human Rights. Vanita, y'all have been very much against Thomas Farr, pushing people on the heel not to vote for him. Certainly has to be good news to hear not only Senator Jeff Flake, but also Senator Tim Scott saying absolutely no.
Oh, my God. I am celebrating right now, and I will say the Leadership Conference Coalition of over 210 national civil and human rights organizations worked really hard over the last year. It's been a year-long campaign to defeat his nomination. And his history as a systematic vote suppressor in every sense of the word in North Carolina has been known. And so what was ultimately kind of, I think, really revealing is it was only in the last couple of days that we saw Senator Flake and Senator Tim Scott and folks actually really hone in on his record. We have been working this for a long time. The NAACP of North Carolina has been hard at work. The NAACP Legal Defense Fund, Lawyers Committee, the Leadership Conference. But it's a big day. And here's another thing. People have been feeling pretty dismal about the ability to stop some of Trump's most extreme nominees to lifetime appointments on the federal bench. And we all know the important role that federal courts play in enforcing and ensuring our civil rights. This was an example of what can happen when progressives and civil rights advocates mobilize and refuse to let go and reveal the truth at every turn about some of these nominees. Thomas Farr needed to be defeated, and today he was, and it's a big day.
And not only that, look, this is a guy, first of all, this is a seat that has been held open the longest in the country.
Like 12
years.
Two
black women were appointed by President Barack Obama. It was the two senators from North Carolina, both Republican, who would not even allow those two women to even get a hearing. And then, of course, Trump wins. Okay, guess what? Time to appoint somebody to the seat. This guy has had ties to white supremacists, and even some critics say he wasn't even truthful in his nomination hearing. But again, what amazes me is to see a Senator Jeff Flake say this now when, if you had done what you're supposed to do in the committee, it doesn't even go to the floor.
Look, you're right. You're absolutely right. We saw this, though, with Ryan Bounds, the nominee to the Ninth Circuit, where he made it past committee, and then it was Tim Scott who kind of defeated him. It was the prior time. You're right. Senator Flake, saw religion and found it and probably read through the papers. Whatever the reason is, we'll take it. It has been, for too long, Republicans have not been putting country before party. They've been rubber stamping these nominees, some of whom really had either were incompetent to serve or had some of the most extremist views. And those folks are going to be affecting how justice gets rolled out for our children. And so today, the defeat of Thomas Farr, who has known ties to the white supremacists, who did mislead Congress about his own very kind of direct role with the Jesse Helms campaign in 1984 and 1990 in suppressing the black vote in North Carolina. This was an important day to assert our power as a civil rights community and to say that this kind of thing, even though Democrats don't have a majority, that there are Republicans of conscience that are willing to stand stand up for some of the most egregious wrongs in the courts.
Michael, pressure bust pipes, and so certainly when you're getting deluged with phone calls and emails and social media posts saying do not vote for this guy, there's no doubt that had an impact on Flake and Scott.
Well, first, congratulations.
Oh, thank you. Lots of folks involved.
No, absolutely. And I think, Senator Scott, and whatever, I certainly don't know him and don't understand his or know his politics, but sometimes you need to stand up for what's right. And I was disappointed the other day when he didn't stand up for what's right, but clearly, after the pressure, he decided to stand up for what's right. So good, and I hope he does more of that. Why not? I mean, they still are going to want him in their press shots. They're still going to want him in the photoshops and on the Hill. So he's still going to be able to have his relevance within the party. So stand up. Why not?
Malik?
Oh, I mean, first of all, I have to say that Senator Scott is not just there to take photos.
I'm not by him, but by the leadership.
Well, even the leadership. I don't think that the leadership.
But they trot him out like that.
Well,
Let's just be honest. They trot him out.
Senator Tim Scott can stand on his own.
He is the diversity in the Republican Party.
He does not need to be trotted out.
He
does not need to be trotted out. Senator Tim Scott was elected the senator from South Carolina,
and he does not need to.
He does not need to. He does not need to be trotted out. And you shouldn't say that a black man can't be a Republican
but he's a junior
without having to be.
That's not what I said.
Okay, one second. Malik, finish your point.
Whether he's junior or senior, he does not need to be trotted out. So he was not trotted out. He's not a photo op for the GOP. I'm happy with that he made the decision that he made. I think it's great that you guys, the nomination was defeated. Doesn't seem like he's going to vote for him. I support Senator Scott in that. Oh, well, sure. I said that I didn't. I said, I think probably Tuesday or something, I'm not wedded to Thomas Farr. I didn't know a lot about him until I read up about him.
Julian, again, this is a guy, had he gotten confirmed, first of all, let's just be clear. First of all, the vote is still scheduled.
Yeah.
Okay,
Next
Flake
week.
says no, Scott says no. That can change. So let's just be clear. Let's be real clear. The vote hasn't taken place yet.
Yeah, that's true.
Right now, they are no's. But this is a guy, anybody who looked at his history, I mean, this guy wants to deny black folks opportunities to vote. He was very much involved in the writing of the law that was struck down by the federal courts, that voter suppression ID bill. I mean, and so anybody, and then defending that, I mean, I'm sorry, that's not the kind of person you want making decisions in a place where black people make up a third of the area.
Well, two things. First of all, Vanita, congratulations. Great work. I think that the entire civil rights community, but certainly your organization, the NAACP, did great work in keeping the pressure on. Secondly, I disagree with you. They do trot, and I'm going to use my words. They trot him out whenever they want to have a non-all-white picture. Here come Tim Scott. He's not on the committee, but he's sitting over there. Because because y'all know what your problem is. But number three, and most importantly, Roland, most importantly, as Reverend Barber has said, you've been with him in Mississippi. We've all been with him. This is a man in North Carolina who the racist court said had attempted to exclude black voters with surgical precision.
A laser-like precision. Yep, surgical.
Surgical precision. So this is a man who should not have even been nominated, if the truth is to be told. So, but this is the agenda of the Republican Party, unfortunately. There was a time when it wouldn't be Tim Scott as the only one standing up. There was a time when decent Republicans would have said this was just unacceptable.
Right.
But now, because the orangutan is there, and forgive me, orangutans, the orange orangutans, so the orangutan lobby, I apologize to y'all.
I don't even know how to, what does that mean? Orangutan lobby. I mean, we're not animals, so.
Well, the president,
and neither is the president.
The president behaves like one.
Well, he's not an animal.
He behaves like one. But, the fact is that he has nominated people who are not only racist, sexist, etc. So what do we expect? I'm just happy.
And some grossly unqualified people.
Oh,
when you nominate somebody who literally got out of law school just 11 years ago, and no disrespect to anybody who finished law school more than a decade ago, and also other people who literally had never filed a brief in their career, who had never walked into a courtroom, that is not who you want sitting on a federal bench.
Yeah, let me just, while I'm sitting here kind of, revelatory about Thomas Farr, the reality is that the Trump administration has filled 89 vacancies in the short 2 years that it's been in office. And he has swiftly remade the courts, and he has another 2 years to do that with a majority of Republicans in the Senate. And so
and these are people who are like 32, they're very young.
They are
by
mostly
design.
pale, white, and male, and they are young. And there are others who've gotten through who have a deeply anti-civil rights agenda.
Yep.
And so we have a lot of work to do to cut out, but this builds power, this builds momentum. It's important for us, but we also recognize the long fight here to save the independence of the courts. The courts have been one of the most important institutions as a bulwark against some of the most egregious excesses of the other two branches of government.
Which is why they want these judges
That's
on
right.
the court.
They understand the power.
Just for everybody understands, I need you to understand why this is the case. Again, since Brown v. Board of Education in 54, since Brown 2 in 55, folks have said, wait a minute, that's where the activist court came from. The gains of the civil rights movement, but because of the courts. That's what led many conservatives to launch these institutions, these foundations, to specifically target the courts. The Federalist Society is all about creating next generation right-wing federal judges. They literally are focused on breeding them, creating them, molding them from the time they're 18 years old. Yeah. That's who Brett Kavanaugh was. And there are other people who are like that. So understand why this is a major deal. You want to support Roland Martin Unfiltered? Be sure to join our Bring the Funk fan club. Every dollar that you give to us supports our daily digital show. There's only one daily digital show out here that keeps it black and keep it real as Roland Martin Unfiltered. Support the Roland Martin Unfiltered daily digital show by going to RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. Our goal is to get 20,000 of our fans contributing $50 each for the whole year. You can make this possible. RolandMartinUnfiltered.com.